Braxcast time once again. This is the 26th episode of the Braxcast, and we've got a good bit of stuff to talk about, so I don't want to bury the lead. Want to get right into it. With the first thing we've got a summer collection that's dropped. It's going to be running throughout all of August, a little bit into September. I believe just a nice thing to really close out the summer. You've got free tank tops and the Rippaverse shorts. They're a bit expensive, but I have a good bit of Rippaverse merch, and it's all really high quality stuff. This isn't like fast fashion Shein is being marked up as legitimately high quality stuff. So if it is in your budget and you do like tank tops, then you got free great option. Of course, you've got the shorts. So I like all the designs. I love the fonts and everything. So maybe I'll snatch one of these tank tops up, but I don't think I will. More in the Rippaverse for the comic books themselves, and the merch is just stuff I've acquired with all the bundles. And of course, I had to get the Braxcast shirt, and I really like the Rippaverse Studio shirt as well. And it's all really great. It, feels great. It's a great material. So I think even though it's a bit expensive, it is priced quite well. And then I just wanted to also show off this little comic that we had here with the playing into the hamsters. You've got Michael Copper as a hamster, you've got Lauren Renashi there, and then you've got the hamster alpha core team with Ryan Solari, wondering what Michael's plotting this time. So I think it's very funny. But with other things, with not only the summer collection, the warehouse is also cooking, because you got the $5 sale on a bunch of items. It's in a collection on the Rippaverse website. So you go to the website, you go to the collection, you'll see that $5 sale. And it's running from the 16th to the 23rd. So if you're watching this on the day that I uploaded, Saturday the 18th, if I'm getting my dates correctly, you can still get in on this sale. Alpha Core, I believe it's Cover D, and ISOM 1 Cover C are included in that $5 sale, along with a bunch of merch. So if you haven't gotten in on the Rippaverse yet, there's some stuff you're looking to get. It could be heavily discounted because they've got big stuff coming up. They need that space to really quickly expand, which I'm really excited for, which means that I think after ISOM 3 comes out and it ties up the ill-advised Scark, along with Bloodroof #1, introducing those supernatural elements in the Rippaverse, I think we're going to get our first big event for the Rippaverse, which is really exciting to see. And then the last thing is that the ISOM short box, which I talked about a couple episodes, is beginning early fulfillment. I got the shipment notification, so you might have as well if you ordered an ISOM short box. I believe they're still available. There's only 2,000 of that. They haven't done a in stock short box, or like an unlimited print one short box. The Rippaverse comic short box, that was a limited run. This ISOM short box is a collector's one as well. I think it's the same basically design, where you fold it out to construct it, you don't glue it. So it's pretty simple. They have a video on how to do the Rippaverse short box one, and I'm sure they'll have the same thing with the ISOM one, which people will be getting soon. I'm not sure if I'm going to unfold it out, because I already have two and I have enough room, but it's a nice thing to have. And again, it's a great high quality item, so I think it's definitely worth the price. But with that, we're going to get into the questions of the day, because that's really what I want to get into. I really wanted to hype up the fact that you got a $5 sale and you got people who can get in on the Rippaverse, and that's really what it's all about. Just getting as many people to be readers and part of the fandom that want to be part of the fandom. That's really what excites me about the Rippaverse. That's why I do the Braxcast. And I think with that little tangent, I think this it leads perfectly into the first question of the day. How do you express your enthusiasm for characters? I do the Braxcast, so I'm invested in the universe as a whole. So that way I hype up what I want to hype up. I named it after Jeremiah Braxwell, because I think, Braxcast sounds better than like ISOMcast or the Rippaverse fan podcast. That's why I titled it that way. And also just love the I don't know, ethos, but just the aesthetic or the atmosphere that Braxwell gives off as a character is something that's really appealing to me. So, the fact that I named the podcast after him, I think shows my enthusiasm for that character. But the fact of the matter is that, every week I do this podcast, I cover it, I'm covering it from a universe aspect. So that's really what I'm hyping up the most, and not any individual character that lives in that universe. Even though, I like some more than others. Like, I think Yaira is more appealing to me than Michael Copper. I think Lauren Renashi is cooler than Sally who was part of the Alpha Core's Equal One team. That's a whole thing there. So some characters are going to appeal to me more than others, but what really gets me going is the fact that this universe, the Rippaverse in and of itself, is this character that I'm invested in the sense that it's just something I want to see unfold and develop and have all these arcs. And like I said, an event that I think is upcoming after Isom 3 and Bloodroof 1 come out, because they need to do that sale to get that inventory, to get that warehouse space so they can have more inventory, so they can just like rapid fire release stuff as part of like a really big event. It could be like Alien Invasion of Forest Park. It could be, the free people who have the LF certification are involved in some massive event. It could be like the Alpha Core being restructured, or like it could be like a new Alpha Core. We could have like the Omega Core or something like that. I'm just spitballing here, but there's so much stuff that could be doing, and that's really what I want to hype up and show enthusiasm for, is all the cool things that you can do when you have a comic book universe and you actually want the comics to matter. But I think that's all I have with that one. We're moving on to the next question of the day. What got you interested in comic books in the first place? So really what got me into comics currently, as much as I'm currently into them, although I'm still a newbie with the medium, I'm not a comic book lifer, is the Rippaverse in and of itself. I had some Walking Dead comics I was reading in middle school because I got into the Telltale adventure game, and then I got into the show, and I knew that it was based on a comic book series, so I got those. I got some of those trades from my local comic book shop, and really ended with there. I had some manga that I kind of perused through, but with I believe it was like late 21, early 22. Eric July was talking about, on For Canon's Sake, how he wanted to do a comic book company. He had aspirations to compete with Marvel and DC, and that got me really interested, because I was like, oh, having this like expansive comic book universe that you can get into on the ground floor is really interesting to me. And I was listening to Veracity and Rap Circle, and I was watching For Canon's Sake all the time, so it imbued me with this, faith in his creative abilities. And I thought, hey, when the Rippaverse comes out, I'll check in on it. But I want to get into comics, so I read all of Invincible, and I got into a bunch of Comic Gates books. So I started with stuff from All Caps Comics, because they have the eBay store. They're pretty good about shipping that stuff out. Some crowdfunding campaigns, they ship pretty quickly. Others take a bit of time too, but I don't want to get into that. But anyway, I got into Comicsgate. I was buying a whole bunch of books back in a bunch of campaigns throughout early 22, basically all 2022, and then in 23 is when I kind of slowed down, and then the Rippaverse, of course, came out in July of 22, and that was really what I would say ignited my current love for comics, when I got to really get into Isom, and the next 4 books of the Rippaverse is what's really sustained that love. But I read all of Invincible. I read, that is basically the bulk of it. Of course, there's stuff like Thin Blue Line. I've read some stuff from Genuine Comics. I've read a bunch of Narwhal books. So there's a lot of stuff in the independent scene that I've read as well, aside from the Rippaverse, that's really gotten me invested. Of course, I was reading more manga as well. It's getting back into that as well. So I would say it's just this current like rising of the independent scene is what got me back into comics, with it being focused with saying like, hey, Eric July's running a comic book company. I wanted to get a bit more into comics and familiarize myself with the medium. I think I did that adequately enough, although I could have done that better with the Marvel and the DC stuff. But it's so complicated, with timelines and all that stuff, and with all the nonsense that Disney and Warner Discovery and all these mega corporations do. It really does leave a sour taste in your mouth. So, and plus, love the Rippaverse. I hype it up, and that's really what I'm focused on. So it's the independent scene that's been growing from the interconnected ability we have with the internet. That's what got me into comics currently as I am, with the Rippaverse really spearheading that, and then that led me to get stuff from my local comic book shop, with Invincible and a whole bunch of books, for CG and other independent crowdfunders. But with that, we're going on to the final question of the day. And what do you hope to see in Chuck Dixon and Joe Bennett's The Horseman? There's so much stuff, but I'm going to show this. I'm going to get this out of the way. But Up next is the Horseman, Welcome to Flores Park. The Welcome to Flores Park is what really gets me excited, is because there's a lot of world building that still needs to be done if the Rippaverse is going to be seen seriously as this expansive comic book universe, and I think Horseman is going to be really key in that. Of course, I've loved every single Rippaverse book. I've enjoyed them from, writing and art in those aspects. So just having another meaty, like, 96-page book to read through is just always a fun experience. And plus, I love the Alpha Core #1. Joe Bennett's art was fantastic. So in terms of art, just seeing more of Joe Bennett's pencil work and it being inked well is what I'm all here for, especially those epic 2-page spreads. And I don't have the art with me. One of the first, I could say the first art that was revealed with Horseman was that 2-page spread of Horseman basically fighting in the snow, and it was a pretty badass scene. So more scenes like that. Of course, the idea of a street level vigilante that doesn't have any powers but military training and all the weapons that go along with it. He's got the batons, he's got guns. So seeing him in action using that, seeing him butt heads with the Alpha Core would be a really fun thing, because if he's doing stuff that the Alpha Core should be doing and better, it really puts into question the legitimacy of the Alpha Core. And if you read Alpha Core #1, you know that they are a state-sanctioned, part of the police force, as in they, exist legally and they have a duty as law enforcement, but they're barely state-sanctioned. So the police don't necessarily always approve of them. Brian Solari involved himself in that bank robbery when he shouldn't have. He got chewed out by the police for doing that. So if Horseman is doing stuff that the Alpha Core should be doing, and arguably more effectively, then that's going to make the dynamic of the Alpha Core even more complicated than it already is, considering the end of the events of Yaira #1, with Stefania joining the Alpha Core. Again, lots of spoilers, but I probably should have said spoilers for that. But the whole thing is that, I really can't talk about what excites me about the Rippaverse without talking about the other books, and that's what I love about the comic book universe, is that each story stands well on its own, but they become as good and as good for me to invest in them because they are part of a bigger whole, right? Horseman exists in the town of Flores Park, and Isom does as well, and the Alpha Core do as well, and Yaira is doing her own stuff along with Altona and Salvage and now Saoirse, who are all involved in the same universe, all doing things, and those things have effects on each other, and that's what really gets me excited, and that's what I'm really excited to see. But in terms of the book itself, the art, because Joe Bennett's art was fantastic in Alpha Core #1, and I've got no doubts it's going to be fantastic in a Horseman as well. So that's also going to be a really exciting thing to see. It's just, like I said, just to have another really good comic book. But like I said, I think the implications that Horseman is going to have for world building, and especially diving into the nitty gritty of what Flores Park is and that crime scene is as well, is going to be fun. And then seeing the character that is Horseman, really getting to find him out. On the site, I believe his name is Hector, so we kind of know just a tiny bit about him. We had that like teasing with Rippaverse Day that he's a family man with a wife, so we know like a tiny bit about him. But I really want the doors blown open and get like a really deep dive into who Horseman is. And like I said, considering the subtitle is Welcome to Flores Park, the world building for the Rippaverse's main city, where it's going to center in Flores Park and then branch out. That's the way I view it as happening. We're going to get more insight into that crime scene, and then therefore we'll see more about more excepts and how they function in the universe, like we did with Alpha Core #1. We got some insight into how excepts function in terms of just the powers that they have, in terms of how the dynamic that causes in societal interaction. So that's a really interesting thing as well. And that's the big thing for me with Horseman, is just world building, world building, world building. And that's the whole thing with a comic book universe, is that you're getting to tell these multiple storylines that can run in parallel with each other and then also intersect in very interesting ways. And it all, like I said, it all makes a greater whole. They're greater than the sum of its parts. That's really what I want to emphasize with the Rippaverse, or any sort of comic book universe. So even stuff like the Imageverse, like Invincible has some stuff that offshoots. And that made reading the mainline Invincible more valuable when you could read about like Adam Eve's origin story, when you could read like the Invincible Universe stuff, and you can even read like Tech Boy and Brit, even though I didn't get into that. But the fact of the matter is that you have more than just that main character and it being one story. It's a lived-in universe, and that's what the Rippaverse really is becoming in my eyes. And I think Horseman is going to be a really key step in that, and I think Bloodroof is going to be a great step as well. And then Item Number 3 is going to really set up the ability for us to go into that next big event for the Rippaverse, or should I say, like the first big event. If you don't consider the ill-advised Dark in and of itself an event, which kind of is, but it's more about just getting the company off the ground, establishing the base storyline, and being that launching pad. And then I think once we've got that launching pad nice and well established, along with some other stuff we can draw from, like with Horseman, with Gooding, with Bloodroof, then you can have a really great, Yaira as well. Yaira did a lot for world building, in my opinion. So there's so much stuff to draw, and there's like the really good seeds of lore to really blow open the door with a nice big event. And of course, if you have a big event, you're going to have to sell out a lot of merch and comics and stuff to associate with that and really make it a success, which is why there's that $5 sale, so you can get or so they can get more inventory space and the customers can get stock for cheap, which is always a nice thing, especially in this economy. But I think with that, I'm going to end it here. A bit of a shorter episode. And also, I guess to end it, there's the whole idea of a Rippaverse animated universe. If you want that to happen, become a member, a Rippaverse member. There was a little teaser trailer, I would say. It's more like a compilation of their current animated work, saying that if you want that, then become a Rippaverse member to support that. I'm honestly really excited. I don't think a Rippaverse animated universe is on the horizon soon, given how expensive Eric has gone on the record saying animation is and how they want to expand slowly. And I think that the fans, the way that I see it, most people want there to be more comics to adapt and have that lore really set. And I think once we get to a book a month, so I'd say probably in year 4, you're going to be able to have that established canon, and the release schedule is going to be there where the fans will feel like, okay, now we can do adaptations. And that's really the way I feel about it. But of course, I loved all the animated trailers, so having a Rippaverse animated universe would be really, really cool. But I don't think it's on the horizon anytime soon. But, we've got the comic books, and that's really the primary thing. That's what I want them to focus on above all else. But with that, it truly is the end of this episode of the Braxcast. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Joker is out. Thank you for tuning in to the Braxcast. Be sure to like, comment, follow, and subscribe to keep up with the Rippaverse.